The weather out there is awful today, and winter is just around the corner. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about lighting. Keeping my space dry and warm are two great things, but bright so that I don't die of seasonal depression, well, that's important too. So, let's talk about it. Now, those of you who've been around since the start will remember that perihelion has a flush deck. That means I have no cabin structure above, which means I have no bigger portholes than these tiny little round ones like this. That's it. So I got those, and I have two beautiful butterfly hatches. And that's all the natural light that makes its way down below. It's not a lot. For a big boat, 51 feet, it is pretty dark and dank inside this boat. So the lighting is very, very important. Now, when I first got perihelion, she had a bunch of traditional mounted lights. So it had standard bronze wall fixtures, like this one, which is very corroded and very beaten up. These things originally are set up to run on 110 volt, and you'll notice it has a bright light bulb in it right now. That is a 12 volt light bulb that I have converted the back end to be 12 volt. So that's a fairly simple way of updating your system to have LED and 12 volt is just by retrofitting what you already have. So a lot of people just switch out the bulbs and call it a day. Now that is the bare minimum as far as I'm concerned, and I want a little bit more out of my boat, especially considering the lack of natural light that I have down below. So I'll show you a few of the things I did to really step it up. Right on, we got it unboxed. This episode is brought to you by Temgo and their 100 amp hour 51.2 volt golf cart battery. Now I haven't done a golf cart battery before because, well, they're only just sort of becoming a thing, and most of the time they were just the same batteries I was already reviewing with the word golf cart on it, but this one actually brings something new. First of all, we'll start with the price. It's $1,000 Canadian, or just under. That is an incredible value, even if it's just a regular battery. That's 5.1 kilowatt hours of storage for under $1,000. That means you're spending less than $200 per kilowatt hour. That's an incredible value. Now, it's not just a battery. First of all, the form factor. This battery is incredibly small considering its capacity. Now, you guys have seen me review server rack batteries. That's the same capacity as this. This is a pretty small battery, all things considered. 8 lead acids worth. It's a lot of juice, okay? Secondly, it has a 200 amp BMS module in there. So that means if you were running a really large inverter, like a 10 kilowatt inverter, or if you were going to electrically convert a boat, a lot of the small boats will run on a 10 kilowatt BLDC motor or even a 5 kilowatt BLDC motor. Well, you can run both of those off this battery alone. That's amazing. So no other batteries, just one battery and you're motoring your boat already. So awesome. For $1,000, that's already a wicked good deal. Now on top of that, it's Bluetooth enabled, which you know I love, so we'll be testing that app soon. But it also comes with a hardwired screen. So if you don't want to or don't have any other kind of screen for monitoring your battery, here you go. It's already built in, already has mounting flanges on it. It looks clean and polished. That's really great to have. But what I'm also stoked about is this incredibly cheap package already has an 18 amp charger. None of the other batteries I've tested have come with a charger at anywhere near a reasonable rate. These are $200 or $300 often to get a charger like this. So this thing is putting in 56.8 volts at 18 amps. That's in the ballpark of like 70 to 80 amps on your 12 volt battery charger. That is a lot of power and is coming out of a small box like this, air cooled with a forced air induction like fan on top. Probably all you really need to charge this battery, so long as you've got 5 to 6 hours to do so. You leave this overnight and it will charge your battery fully, no problem. Let's go get this thing installed in perihelion and we get to test it. So let's test it. Not exactly the ideal location of my review, but as you guys know, I've been doing a ton of work on the scuppers up ahead. Hopefully, this is the end of it dripping, but I can actually start building my electrical cabinet where the Temgo battery will live. So I just wanted to wrap up my Temgo review. I've had this thing now for a month. I have used and abused it. I have used it to run 3 space heaters at the same time, tried to overload it. I can't because my inverter only caps out at like 3600 watts. So, I mean, I've pulled as much juice as I possibly could out of this thing. Basically, I plugged it in and then forgot about it because it just works. Like, it's just been working nonstop, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Zero drama whatsoever. And the few times where I was concerned with how much power I was using, I was able to load up the app and check things remotely. I did it from bed, which was really nice to not even have to get up and just check my voltage or my power systems. I highly suggest this 200 amp BMS charger, control screen, Bluetooth. It's crazy the price on this thing. Please check out the link in the description. They have a Black Friday sale going on. You guys should hit it up while you still can. These things are going to go quick. This is the best deal on the market right now. As far as I can see, I haven't seen anything that competes with this. I'm really stoked. As always, links are in the description. Thank you so much to Temgo for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back into lights. Now, first and foremost, I got to give a huge shout out to Ryan, who watches the channel and owns a lighting supply company. So yeah, a good friend to have if you're going to do some lighting. He sent out the DPU 403. I got a big case of these things. These are little 2-inch LEDs. You see one of them is wired in behind me. These are great overhead lights for a boat because they're nice and small and they're extremely low profile. Now they're 12 volt, but most importantly, I think, they're also dimmable, which is amazing to have on a boat because when you have overhead lights, and I'm going to put a lot of them in here, I want to make sure that I can have them at less than full blast. He also sent out these 4-inch variants, which are also dimmable, also super low profile, and a little bit brighter. They burn about 8 watts. So these I'll be using in some brighter areas in the galley, for instance. Isn't that sick? So that's our overhead lights. Let's go wire a few in, and then I want to talk about how I'm doing the switches on those.
Gather their own forces.
Alright, so up here we're using the 4-inch variants. I've only put 2 of them up. I think that's probably all I'm going to do. They're about 4 times the consumption on these little guys. These are 2 watts and those ones up there are 8 watts. It's still well within the amperage of a low voltage setup, but it's still very efficient, but much, much brighter. And when you're here, either at the the nav station or over in the galley, it's nice to have bright light for you to do what you need to do. Alright, so these are just temporarily tacked into place. As you can see, the ceiling's not done. I want to carve out some of this rotten tongue and groove. It's just a fascia board. It's not the main strength of the actual deck. But I need to get the scuppers to stop leaking and get this place properly dried out before I finish the insulation in there. But yeah, for now, using the cardboard that they came in and tacking these spotlights in place gives me an idea of how they're going to sit and how they're going to look, and kind of maybe I can make some decisions before I cut permanent holes in the covering boards that are going to go in here. What do you think? It's nice, but if you were on this upper berth, you might be staring directly at a light, depending on which way you laid. I don't know. All right, we got some of the lights set up overhead, but the thing with overhead lights a lot of people don't like is that they're extremely bright. And so I thought I'd like to put them on dimmers. Now, getting dimmers that run on 12 volt and getting dimmers that look good and have a good functionality is kind of challenging. I spent a lot of time researching this, so I'm just going to pass this research on to you guys. This is what I found. These are VIP Moon DC 12 24 volt. These are a little hard to find, but I did finally find them. They come with an aluminum anodized black plate like this that you can install in either orientation you want because it's an 86 millimeter square. This is a Chinese standard that isn't popular in other places, but it'll come important in a second. Here's the actual dimmer switches. So they have your 3 leads up here, This is the push button for on and off, and then the dim, which is about 270 degrees of rotation. So both of these fit into this, and then because you're not in a house and you can't just recess this in a wall, you need a junction box that is proud of the wall. So this is a 40 millimeter by 86 junction box. That took me a second to sort out, but I bought a bunch of them, and now every room has 2 dimmers on the way in, one for its main lights, the overheads, and one for the auxiliary lights. We'll get into those in a second.
Excited on a lot of fronts, and I think America will.
All right, and here they are installed. We've got one of the junction boxes. It came with screws instead of bolts, so I had to actually go buy these separately. Just a heads up, I had to buy a little baggie of M4 bolts and get ones that had nice tapers on them. But there you go. So you can just and suddenly that doesn't work. That is crazy. All right, let's go. You kidding me? I couldn't make this up. I've been using these things like all week. And now I go to film it and it doesn't work anymore. That's great. Super. Okay, I now have dimmers. I replaced the one module that was broken. So that's the first one to have failed. Nothing else has failed so far. I think what happened was while I was doing an installation, some of the time I was working with a live circuit and I probably touched 2 leads. This thing caps out, it says on the back, at 60 watts if you're running a 12 volt system. So that's basically 5 amps. And if you're running 24 volt, 5 amps gives you 120 watts. But when you dead short it and pop the circuit or something, which is rated at 15, then yeah, that would overload that and burn something out, whatever the PWM controller for it is. Now, I don't see a flicker, but younger viewers who have better eyesight than me might see a flicker here, but as far as I'm concerned, every fader always has some sort of flicker, unless you get to spending goo goo gaga money. But I am very, very happy with those results. And it's really nice, especially when you get to the bathroom, because like I had visitors this week, and being able to come up and use the bathroom and turn the light on the low setting so not to wake them up and blind them, that's nice. One thing I really love about this system is I can have it off, turn it all the way to low mode, and then turn it on, and it turns on in low mode. And because they're tactile buttons, not like a touchscreen like some of the other setups I've seen on Amazon, you're actually going to be able to feel what you're doing in the dark. Everything to do with light switches should be tactile, because touchscreens do not work in the dark, especially if they don't light up. Anyway, that cool? Faders. Love it. All right. I am so happy with these lights already, but we have more to show you. Let's do more lights. All right, so we're well lit here, but I've also still got cabinets. Now, I really wanted some cabinet lighting, but running all the wiring for all of it just seemed, well, possible, annoying, but possible. And then I discovered these guys. You just reach in here and check this out. It's already installed. Light bars. 5 different power settings, and 3 different color temperatures. So I use warm lighting all throughout the boat, and that's the nice thing with LEDs in the 21st century is that you can go as good as warm as you want these days and have all control over that. But in all my cabinets, I've just added these, and they're magnetically mounted, so I can just yank them and use them anywhere, like I did on the beach fire with my friends the other day. Super handy, and it got me thinking. The first thing that really got me thinking down this pipeline was getting a sound system for the boat. I was like, oh, I really like music. I really like to have a good sound system, and I was like, why would anyone get a sound system? It's 2025. Everyone has Bluetooth speakers. You just get a Bluetooth speaker, right? And then you just leave it on the shelf most of the time. And then every once in a while, you want to take it to the beach or do something else with it. You yank it out and bring it with you. And I thought, geez, you could do that with a lot of stuff. So like, why not cabinet lights? Great solution. The batteries in those last a really long time. When you use them as your main light for jobs and stuff like, and I now have like 30 flashlights all over the boat, everywhere I look. But, you know, they don't last so long when you're using them 24/7 like that. But if you're just opening cabinets and you have them on the motion sensor, I mean, I don't know. I put them in there. I never really recharge them yet, but it's been like a month. Pretty good. Pretty good. If you got to charge them once a month, that's fine for me, and any less than that's even better. So I'm stoked on that. Let's get into auxiliary lights. Now you've already seen me use some of this. This is the mesh cable coverings. You can get these from these websites online. Leo from Samson Boat Co. turned me on to some of these websites. I got a snake pattern. I don't know that I really wanted a snake pattern. I kind of thought it would be more plaid when it arrived because it looked more plaid. It's definitely snake. You should pay attention to the name. It's growing on me though, a little bit. I'm kind of like getting to like it. And I've used some copper tie downs, of course, to mount it everywhere. So it's in keeping with the kind of vintage aesthetic that I'm going for. Snake vintage, you know. Let's get this in. Under these cabinets, I really like using these. Really useful, having like 30 of these lying around all over the boat. Of course, nothing on the boat's magnetic. I'll be honest with you, this week's been a little rough on my body. I didn't think wiring would be this hard. Okay, I got my first auxiliary lights in. Each room's gonna have different auxiliaries, so the main rooms are just gonna have little pot lights like this down low, so it lights up the floor. My thinking is that, you know, late at night, if I want to move around the boat, I can use these to light up the floor on the lowest setting and still see everything, but not, you know, blind myself. It's kind of like having the nighttime run lights, but they are still technically white. They're just like way dimmer than the red lights. I probably still end up putting red lights, but I want to kind of test these out and see if these are just subtle enough that I can get by without putting big blaring red lights all over my boat. Anyway, I just also figured Honey should have her food dish lit up because, yeah, that is so much nicer than it used to be. It is so much brighter and less dingy in here. And this might not be a big, huge step in terms of physically sailing around the world, but it is a huge step in my mental well-being this winter. And yeah, I'm just loving my time on the boat now. It's nice. I like it. I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.